The development timeline of Pac-Man, 1980, one of the most iconic video games of all time, traces back to its creation by Namco under the leadership of Toru Iwatani. Below is a summary of its development timeline. 1979, conceptualization and development begins spring 1979, Toru Iwatani, inspired by ideas like simplicity, non-violence, and universal appeal, begins designing Pac-Man. He aimed to create a game different from the space shooters dominating arcades, focusing on themes of eating and maze exploration. The core idea of the game came from observing a partially eaten pizza, which inspired the character's design resembling a circle with a wedge missing. Development phase: Iwatani and a small team of developers, approximately 9 people, at Namco began crafting the game. The team included programmers, hardware designers, and sound designers. The primary game mechanics revolved around guiding Pac-Man through a maze, eating pellets while avoiding ghosts. The power pellet mechanism, which allows Pac-Man to eat the ghosts temporarily, added strategic depth. The ghost characters, Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, were given distinct personalities and programmed with specific movement patterns, adding challenge and charm to the gameplay. 1980, completion and release: early 1980, after months of testing and refining, Pac-Man, originally titled Puck-Man in Japan, was completed. The name was later changed for the international release to avoid vandalism, changing Puck to a profane word. May 22, 1980, Puck-Man is released in Japan. The game gains popularity for its unique gameplay and appeal to a wider audience, including women, which was unusual for arcade games at the time. October 1980, Midway Games licenses Puck-Man for North American release, renaming it Pac-Man. The game debuts and quickly becomes a cultural phenomenon, breaking sales records and influencing pop culture. Impact and legacy: Pac-Man became one of the best-selling and most influential video games in history, spawning sequels, merchandise, and a legacy that continues to this day. 4. The development timeline of Mario Bros. 1981, involves key milestones in Nintendo's early arcade game history. Here's an outline. Background: in the early 1980s, Nintendo was seeking to expand its arcade presence after the success of Donkey Kong, 1981, which introduced the character Jumpman, later renamed Mario. Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Donkey Kong, teamed up with Gunpei Yokoi to design a new game focused on cooperative play. Key development events: early 1981, concept development began with the idea of a game focusing on plumbers, inspired by Mario's carpenter role in Donkey Kong. Miyamoto envisioned Mario interacting with pipes in an underground environment. Mid-1981, the game design was finalized to include single-screen arcade gameplay, featuring Mario and Luigi, introduced as Mario's brother. The developers chose a sewer setting where players would eliminate enemies emerging from pipes. Late 1981, programming and level design were completed. The team worked on enemy mechanics, including iconic characters like Shell Creepers, predecessors to Koopas, and Sidesteppers. December 1981, Mario Bros. Was completed and released in arcades in Japan and North America shortly thereafter. It introduced cooperative two-player mechanics, marking Luigi's debut in the franchise. The game's mechanics and characters laid the foundation for future Super Mario titles. 4. The development timeline of Donkey Kong, 1981, one of the most iconic arcade games, involves a fascinating history of creativity, challenges, and innovation. Here's an overview. Late 1980 to early 1981, planning stage: Nintendo's market struggles. Nintendo of America was struggling to find success in the U.S. arcade market. Their arcade game Radar Scope had failed commercially, leaving a surplus of unsold cabinets. Project assignment: Shigeru Miyamoto, a young game designer at Nintendo, was tasked with creating a new game that could repurpose the Radar Scope hardware. Early 1981, design and conceptualization: initial ideas, Miyamoto envisioned a story-driven game influenced by Popeye and other Western cartoons. However, licensing issues forced Nintendo to create original characters. Core concepts: a hero would rescue a damsel in distress from a villain. The villain, a large ape named Donkey Kong, served as the antagonist. The protagonist, initially called Jumpman, later became known as Mario. Unique mechanics: Miyamoto introduced vertical platforming and obstacle dodging gameplay, which was innovative at the time. Mid-1981, development hardware challenges: the radar scope hardware was limited, forcing engineers to work creatively to implement Miyamoto's vision. Collaborators: Gunpei Yokoi, a senior developer, advised on gameplay mechanics. Ikegami Tsushinki, an external company, assisted with programming. Level design: the team created multiple stages with increasing difficulty, a rarity in arcade games of the time. July 1981, release: Donkey Kong was released in Japan in July 1981 and shortly after in North America. The repurposed radar scope cabinets were a success, and the game became a cultural phenomenon. Impact: the game launched Shigeru Miyamoto's career and introduced characters who became central to Nintendo's brand, including Donkey Kong and Mario. It also revolutionized the arcade industry by incorporating a narrative and character-driven gameplay. This timeline highlights the ingenuity and determination behind Donkey Kong, which remains a foundational piece of gaming history. 4.0